Hello, Kate Hartley here, and today I'm going to be talking about belly fat and menopause. I've had so many ladies messaging me recently about the fact that they're either perimenopausal or they're postmenopausal, and all of a sudden they've got belly fat that they never had once before. So that's what I'm going to chat about today. You will be probably quite relieved to hear that it's not necessarily a calorie issue. It is more of a hormone issue. Now you'll probably think, oh yeah, well of course it's hormones because I'm going through the menopause, my hormones are all over the shop. I'm actually going to explain why it's our hormones and which hormones in particular are causing us to hang on to belly fat, and also give you ways of overcoming the fact that it's those hormones that are causing you to hang on to belly fat. So if you've got anybody in your friend circle, family circle who would benefit from hearing this, please make sure to share it with them. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have afterwards. Just send me a message, I'll get back to you. So essentially, menopausal belly fat is due to cortisol. There's several things that go into this, but cortisol is our major stress hormone, or one of our main stress hormones. And as we go through the menopause, obviously our estrogen levels fall off, as does our progesterone levels. We essentially stop making eggs. Every woman has around about 400 eggs, and once you stop producing those, that's it, no more. And so as your ovaries go into retirement, what happens is it's kind of like a feedback loop from the ovaries to the brain, and from the brain to the adrenal glands, and various things get secreted. I'm not going to get too scientific about it, but essentially what happens is the adrenal glands back up the job of the ovaries, and so they are helping to release estrogen back into our bodies to try and help with the fact that our ovaries no longer making estrogen. However, that also causes us to release more cortisol. Now, cortisol in and of itself, it is a stress hormone, but it's also a really beneficial thing for our bodies. We actually need cortisol in our bodies to thrive and to survive well. It's anti-inflammatory. If you've ever had something that requires, corticosteroids, that's basically what it is. So, cortisol in and of itself is incredibly beneficial for us. But in this instance, it's causing us to hang on to belly fat. Now, there are several things that I'm going to sort of explain in more detail. The other thing to understand is when cortisol is released into our body, it also makes us release more insulin. Now, insulin is our fat-storing hormone. So when you are releasing more cortisol, because the adrenal glands are trying to back up the job of the ovaries by helping us to produce a little bit more estrogen, and then we're releasing more insulin, which is our fat-storing hormone, you can sort of see that we're laying the pathway to increased weight gain. That's one of the reasons. Also, there are other things combined with that. The fact that our sleep is often affected through the menopause with hot flashes and anxiety and just that sort of feeling of complete out of sorts. I've been there. I never used to have anxiety before, and when I went through the perimenopause, it was just like I would wake up in the middle of the night and there'd be this fizzing. It's just like, what the heck's happening? I had to do deep breathing to calm myself down. And so, when all that is going on, we are setting ourselves up in this almost like a feedback loop of releasing more cortisol because we're not sleeping correctly, which gives us sleep stress. We may not be eating correctly because if we're not sleeping correctly, we're probably reaching for the netting. I hope I'm back with it. And so, when we're reaching for those refined carbs, we're then upsetting our blood sugars again, so our insulin is spiking, and we're continuing to hang on to more fat. So this, I just want you to understand the processes that are going on in the background. So we sort of need to target it from sort of multi-directional approach. The reason that we release insulin into the bloodstream when we have like that surge of cortisol, our stress hormone, is the fact evolutionarily it is designed to make us either fight or flight. So we either fight the thing that's threatening us, or we run away from it. We don't do that anymore, which is why exercise is such an important part of a healthy lifestyle, and will also help keep belly fat off for several reasons. But this one in particular, when we have a spike of cortisol, most of us these days, we just let it sit in the body. So the stress hormones are there, the insulin is spiked, the blood sugars are raised in our bodies, and we're not getting rid of it. So one of the best things that you can do is when you know you are under stress, whether it's a deadline, whether it's a partner, whether it's nutritional stress and you're eating the wrong stuff, whether you've had a boozy night, whether you've slept badly, just use some physical activity, high intensity activity, just to help get rid of those stress hormones, because then your body's actually getting rid of those stress hormones in a functional way. It's going to help balance your blood sugar levels. It's also going to help you create lean muscle, and lean muscle will help you burn up more calories. It'll also help you, it'll release some feel-good hormones. So, in that instance, that is why, when the cortisol is released, we then hang on to belly fat because we're not getting rid of the stress hormones like we should do. Also, it's worth noting that the fat around our belly has 4 times the amount of cortisol receptors than any other part of the body, which is why stress causes us to hang on to belly fat. So this applies to anyone, not just menopausal. But as we are menopausal, we are facing all sorts of different things in our life. We have a lot of stressors. It might be empty nesting. The dynamics of our relationships might be changing with our significant others. Obviously, hormone imbalance is a big part of that. If you are already overweight, that is just going to compound the issue because fat tends to hang on to hormones that we want to be getting rid of. So, if you're finding that, you're noticing you're gaining a lot around the middle, I really would suggest you get some nutritional support as well so that we can get you started on, an overall weight management system. Really steady, really slow, no deprivation, because again, starvation, deprivation puts our bodies back into stress. So, these people who, of course, if you starve yourself, you're going to lose weight, but you're not going to lose weight healthily. And as soon as you start to eat again, your body's going to go into survival instinct and it's just going to hang on to everything that you give it. That's why it's, we tend to see yo-yo diets. So people will lose a lot of weight and then they'll put it on and more. That is the reason for that. The body is really clever. And if you're starving it, as soon as you give it food again, it's just going to hang on to everything it can get. So just bear that in mind. So things that you can do to help you go through the menopause healthily, into middle age and beyond healthily, but also to manage your belly fat, there are several foods that you should be eating more of. Those are vegetables. Ideally, you want to be having 3 portions of vegetables a day. The reason for that is that they're very good for us in any case. Most of us don't eat enough fibre, but as we are, to try and sort of help balance the blood sugars that are a little bit more, what's the word, sort of up and down, can't think of the word at the moment, brain fog. To sort of balance the blood sugars and to prevent us getting a fatty liver, we need that fibre in our body. Also helps to keep you feeling fuller for longer, but vegetables are incredibly important. Also things like one of the enzymes that's associated with estrogen in our bodies is called aromatase. There are certain food groups that we can be eating, or food things that we can be eating, that will help produce aromatase naturally. Those are things like white button mushrooms, quercetin. I have that daily. If you ever see me drinking my that yellow stuff I drink before a workout, it's anti-inflammatory. Also contains quercetin. I actually hadn't realised the importance of quercetin in helping us inhibit aromatase in the body. So I feel I've gone through the menopause really well. I've done it completely naturally, and it's as I'm sort of learning more and more about it that I'm actually realising that there's a reason that some of the things I take are having, I think, a really beneficial impact on how I manage the menopause. Another one is maca. Now, maca is one of the adaptogen herbs. I take maca. I take 8 adaptogen herbs a day. They all help us deal with stress better. So when our hormones are a bit up and down, when our cortisol levels are higher than they should be, those adaptogen herbs help us to manage that. And in the case of things like adrenal fatigue, when you're just exhausted all the time, your adrenals are nuked, you need to go to bed, you need to sleep, you need to sort of do nothing for like 3 or 4 days until then you can sort of start to come back to a sort of normal schedule. Adaptogen herbs will help you actually create more cortisol. So they're a real balancer Things like the ones I take are ashwagandha, cordyceps, maca, maytake, reishi. I can't remember if this astralagus is another of them. It's also important to avoid eating too many refined carbs. I'm use my body as a guinea pig a lot, and I will go through periods of being completely teetotal and just eating lean protein and lots of vegetables, and not reducing carbs to the degree that I become a ketogenic, but just reducing a lot of the carbs, and my tummy goes right down because carbs could kind of help us hang on to fluids, onto water. They can also upset that insulin spike. So again, your carbs aren't great if you want to focus on losing belly fat. Lean protein also is really, really important. If you can have three portions of lean protein a day, small portions, in fact, if you could have vegetables and lean protein 3 times a day, you would make such a massive difference to how your body responds to its environment. 100%. You're going to be balancing your insulin, your blood sugar levels. You're going to have sustained energy throughout the day, so you're not going into nutritional stress, so you're not spiking your cortisol again. When I follow that sort of plan, I'm not a great one for protein and vegetables at breakfast, to be honest, but when I do it, I get amazing results. It really, really does work. So I can promise you, lean protein and vegetables 3 times a day will make a massive, massive difference to you. And then I just want to go back to sleep, because a lot of us don't get as much sleep as we should. And I understand how busy life is, but sleep is an absolute foundational underpinning to healthy living. When we sleep well, we turn white fat, which does not burn calories, into brown or beige fat. And brown or beige fat does help us to burn calories. So when we're sleeping well, that's one thing to take into consideration. Obviously, when we're sleeping, we've got good quality sleep, our body's repairing, we've got cellular repair going on, we've got detoxification going on, but also it helps to balance our satiety hormones. So it helps to balance the leptin and the ghrelin, which tell us whether when we've had enough to eat, and also when we're hungry. When we don't get enough sleep, we have too much of the one telling us that we're hungry, and we don't have enough of the one telling us that we've eaten enough. So again, just bear that in mind. Sleep is incredibly important for just overall health, but particularly through the menopause. The next thing I want you to consider is, as we go through the menopause, our human growth hormone levels decline quickly. Human growth hormone levels are sort of pretty much tied to like the fountain of youth. When we sleep well, we produce more of it, but as we get older, the amount that we produce slows down, and that can have a negative impact on how our muscles atrophy. So we actually, as we get older, we actually start to lose muscle tissue if we don't use it. So another reason why it's really important to have a really good a really good rounded exercise program. So one that contains a bit of cardio. You don't want too much cardio, because again, that is going to cause stress to the body, which is going to make that cortisol spike and going to make your insulin levels spike. But you do need some cardio. It's really good for your heart and lungs. That's why high intensity interval training is so beneficial, because it's a short blast and then it's done. But you also do need to incorporate weight training, because when you're not actually physically loading the muscles and the bones, they will atrophy. Bone is a living tissue. If you don't use it, and if you've not got like muscles pulling on it, as muscles get stronger, and if you've not got impact on the bones do get thinner, which is why you hear of a lot of cases of brittle bone disease as women go through the menopause and beyond. So exercise is incredibly important. It's as important as brushing your teeth. And as we get further through midlife into older age, it becomes even more important for flexibility, coordination, just general strength. You imagine sort of getting to 70 and not being able to go for a walk down a woodland path because you're afraid you're going to fall over and break something. I definitely don't want to get to that stage of my life and think, no, I can't go for a woodland walk because I might trip over something. And if I trip over something, I might break something because of weak bones. So, but of course, the more lean muscle that you've got in your body, the more calories you're also going to burn. And the more, when you're doing a regular workout plan, the cortisol that you're releasing in the body is going to be gobbled up more effectively. It's doing what the body is designed to do, but it's also going to be giving you those feel-good hormones. And I know through the menopause, I have so many ladies that say to me, oh God, I struggle with anxiety. I feel depressed. I feel blue. I hate myself. I don't even recognize the person that I am. 6 months ago, I felt like this, and now I just feel like this bag of yuck. Honestly, this is what I know. I get so many reports from ladies, and I must admit I haven't felt that bad, but I have had hot flushes were a nightmare for me, and that anxiety waking up at night. That was a weird one because I'm not really an anxious person at all. So it does have such a big impact. And you imagine when you're feeling that low, and your sense of self and your body confidence and your self-image is decreased to such a degree, and then you've got this belly fat that no matter what you do, you can't get rid of it, and then you try and starve yourself and it actually doesn't really budge. You'll see other parts of your body, you'll lose it, and on your belly you won't really lose it. That's because you're putting yourself into nutritional stress. So you do need to eat regularly. Ideally do the 3 meals a day, the veggies and lean protein, and also healthy fats are incredibly important. Things like coconut oil, MCT oil, if you can stretch to it. It's quite pricey, but it's incredibly beneficial. Fresh avocados, some nuts, not too many. Brazil nuts, if you're a Brazil nut lover like I am, try not to have more than 4 or 5 because otherwise you're eating too much selenium. Another reason why you want vegetables is because they're very high in potassium, and that's also really, really beneficial for you. So I think that's pretty much what I have got a little list here because I wanted to make sure I covered literally all the elements that are going to be really important for you to understand why you have got belly fat, why you've got it through the menopause, and also these sort of strategies that you can use in order to get rid of that belly fat. So I just want to go over it very, very briefly again, so if you've joined a little bit later. So as our estrogen levels decrease, and obviously our progesterone levels, the brain sends a message to the adrenal glands to help back up the job of the ovaries, and we release a little bit more estrogen. That also can does spike our cortisol levels. And so that's why we need to look after our adrenals very well. So try and manage our stress. That might involve ending certain relationships. If they're causing you long-term stress, the knock-on effect to your health is just not worth the price. And I know it can be stressful in itself to get out of these situations. But if that's a shorter term stress than the long term chronic stress of living with somebody who's toxic or who's dangerous or who's violent, who's just the lover's gone, you are better to make those moves, make those changes. If you hate your job, look for something else. We spend so much of our working hour, our daily hours working. So make sure the gift of life is so special. So make sure that you can find something that you can do that you actually really enjoy doing, that gives you a sense of purpose, that you get excited to get up in the morning to go and do it. Don't shortchange yourself thinking that you've got to stick where you are. I know we're going through really tough times at the moment, but I know also there are so many different opportunities out there. Sometimes it's about looking a little bit out of the box and doing maybe a day of brainstorming and seeing where your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your creativities are, and putting a plan together to help you find something that's going to suit your needs more. But long-term chronic stress is just so detrimental on every level. But if it's belly fat that you want to target specifically, stress is something that you have to manage, and you can manage that by making sure that your nutrition is good. Doesn't need to be amazing all the time, but just make sure it's pretty good. Drink more water because it helps the body to detoxify better. Maybe incorporate things like meditation into your daily rhythms. If deep breathing exercises are incredibly beneficial. They also help to detoxify the body because deep breathing actually stimulates the lymphatic system. Also, movement helps to stimulate the lymphatic system. It doesn't have its own pump like the cardiac system does, so it's up to us with deep breathing and movement to actually stimulate that. And just be mindful of that healthy balance, and that is going to help you lose the belly fat. It's not about calories. It's more about stress and making sure that your hormones are doing what they need to do in the right amount that they do it. And if you have a stressful situation, do some squats, do some star jumps, or maybe not. Maybe if you've had children, you might wet yourself. But you can do squats, you can do planks, you can do push-ups against the wall, you can just jiggle and dance a bit. Anything just to offload that extra energy, and that will help you. Your body will be getting rid of the excess cortisol naturally. We're supposed to have cortisol in our bodies, but the problem is we don't get rid of it these days because we're too sedentary. So when you feel that, when that adrenaline happens and you just feel that, woof, do something. Squats, whatever it is that you feel just gets your heart rate beating a little bit faster, just for a few minutes, 2 minutes, while you put the kettle on, while you're making your cup of tea or your cup of coffee. Just do a few squats, and I promise you, it's going to make a big, big difference to your overall health. But most importantly, you will see the fat on your belly go down. So I hope that was helpful. Hey, Lisa. Oh, it's lovely to see you. You guys, if you want any more specific help, just please send me a message. I answer all my messages. I might not get back to you straight away, but within sort of 24 to 48 hours, I will make sure I get through all my comments and all my messages. But if there's something specific that, resonated with you, please share it with family and friends that might need to hear this. I think, we all get stuck in this sort of thinking that, oh, menopause, belly fat, it's here to stay. Now what? I'm just going to end up looking like an apple on legs. It doesn't have to be the case at all. I absolutely promise you, if you can manage your stress levels, obviously you've got to have a fairly healthy lifestyle to support that, but stress, cortisol is the main reason why you've got belly fat. So thank you for joining me, and message me any problems. I would love to chat to you in more detail. So take care, be safe, handle your stress.